Hello, and welcome to this podcast, guys. The Normalistas and Normalistas. How are you, Fer?
I'm fine, thank you.
Excellent. Alexis, how are you today?
So far, so good.
Perfect. Class, today is Monday, January 10, 2023. Is 2023 or 22?
Already 23, yeah.
23,
Yeah.
oh my God, we are getting older.
No, you are.
Just me. My God.
you.
Okay, guys. Well, like I said, today is Monday, January 10, 2023, and we are third semester students of a major in teaching and learning in secondary education in the specialty of English of the Escuela Normal Superior Profesor Moisés Sáenz Garza of the state of Nuevo León, Mexico. And guys, today we are going to talk denormalistas and normalistas. Okay, so today we have a program where we are going to talk about teacher issues, important issues for us and for you as estudiantes normalistas in any normal básica or superior or university that you are studying. We hope that this podcast will be useful for you guys. Well, guys, let's start this episode. So the topic we are going to talk about is planning. What is that? How important it is for us? And how does it help normalistas?
Okay, also we are going to talk about aprendizajes esperados and its relationship with planning. The main difficulties to deal with a secondary class, first, second, and third grades.
And of course, we're going to talk about classroom management. What is it? What it involves? Some tips. And the last topic will be Investigación Acción. And what we need to consider, some steps equals some tips. Finally, a conclusion for all of us.
So let's do it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what's planning? Planning, in words of Yarena, McQueen, Fernandez, and Alvarez, educational planning is the process in which the purpose, objectives, and goals of an educational activity are determined, from which the most appropriate resource and strategy for their achievement will be determined.
As normalistas, we learn planning are made for the need of each group. Without some planning, the education would be a total disaster. Even educating without planning, it is like building a house without plan or writing a novel without draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Planning is a good skill to develop good classes and maintain organization. It is documented and systematized organization of the elements that will be followed in the teaching learning process, and which includes proposals, contents, activities, and resources.
Okay, so this is very important. Because it gives teachers the opportunity to think deliberately about their choice of lesson, objectives, the type of activity that will meet these objectives, the sequence of those activities, and the material needed, how long each activity may take, and how students should be grouped.
Yeah, it's the art of education that requires effort, rational analysis, critical thinking, and creativity. Planning in education is a key to ensuring the success and quality of a good foundation in Mexican education.
Yeah, it is important also to consider some questions to rectify if we are doing a good plan. For example, what and how and why and when and what for mainly, right?
Yeah, good point.
Oh man, so we have a lot of work. Well, how does it help normalistas? What do you think, Alexis?
That is a good question, actually. When we plan, we as future teachers have a guide for teaching that unifies and gives structures to our practice. Planning allow us to systematically carry out a series of fundamental actions before, during, and at the end of the educational process. What do you think, Fernanda?
Well, I think lesson planning can help the teacher to be well prepared
Yeah.
and aware of what he or she wants to teach the students. It can also help the teacher focus on the beginning to basic knowledge and then take the students to the next step.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow. So I think too that is the first step to achieving complete and effective learning of the content that is required by the students. Moreover, with good planning, the results are much more predictable, and therefore it bodes well for a successful evaluation. So, okay.
Well, the aprendizajes esperados. Well, the aprendizajes esperados were made for what the students are expected to achieve at the end of the school year. They are the learning goals of the students. They are written in the third person singular in order to put the students at the center of the process.
So, Alexis, the aprendizajes esperados has a relationship with the planning, right?
Yeah, its approach begins with a verb that indicates the action to be verified by the teacher and of which it is necessary to obtain evidence to be able to assess the performance of each student, supporting by Aprendizajes Esperados 2017.
So planning allows you to take into account everything you need for your students to develop the expected competencies and learning in a given time and space.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's talk about main difficulties to deal with a secondary class in first grade, second grade, or even third grade.
You know what? The last practice that I went, I noticed something. There are a lot of issues with the secondary students because they don't like the English language.
No, they don't.
They don't. So they are not familiar with it. So they don't care about learning, and most of them just want to finish the school.
Yeah.
That's it. Just finish the school to
you're
begin
right.
to work. So we as a teacher, we need to find a way to get them interested. We need to create a good atmosphere and make our classes interesting for them. You don't think?
Yeah, well, this is especially difficult when teaching a second language because many times they are used to repeating rather than really waiting to learn what words and structures mean.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So yeah, basically, I think the same. But talking about issues, I want to talk about it. This is because being a teacher in these times it's actually complicated.
Yes.
But being a good teacher implies much more than complications. It is a real challenge because now it is so thoughtful that as an education professional work, we need to have empathy for the diversity that is not authoritarian and behaves more like a guide that accompanies and not only transmit knowledge to the students.
Yes. Wow. So this is a little bit the same. The classroom management. What that involves, Fernanda?
Usually, teachers like more traditional classroom management. They may focus largely on compliance, like rules, and make sure students are sitting in their seats, following directions,
Yeah.
listening attentively, etc.
Okay, with classroom management, it happens to bring a wide variety of skills and techniques that we as teachers use to keep students organized, orally focused, attentive on a task, and academically productive during a class. When classroom management strategies are executed effectively, teachers minimize the behaviors that impede learning for both individual or groups, while maximizing the behaviors that facilitate the enhanced learning. What do you think,
Wow.
Frank?
Yes, I totally agree. There are a lot of issues with how we as a teacher must know how to take control of our groups. We need to apply a more encompassing or update view of classroom management. We need to facilitate
Yes.
or improve students' learning, like a positive attitude,
Yeah.
happy facial expressions, encourage statements that respectful and fair treatment of students, etc.
Yeah. Like to create good environments so they can feel relaxed and enjoy
Yes.
the teaching process, right?
Yes.
I think that is gonna help very much to the students to develop all the skills that they have.
So, investigación, acción. What do we need to consider? And let's have some tips. Can you start, Francisco?
Yes, thank you. Well, the problem guide the action, but what is fundamental in action research is the reflective exploration of the practitioner practice, not so much for its contribution to problem solving, but rather is for the ability for each practitioner to reflect on his or her own practice, the plan, and be able to reflect on his or her own practice, that helps to introduce progressive improvements.
Yes, it is a way of understanding teaching, not just doing research on it. Investigación acción implies understanding a process, and this process must have a continuous research. What do you think, Fer?
Yes, in general, investigación acción research is a way of systematically reflecting on practice in order to optimize teaching and learning process of systematic reflections on practice in order to optimize teaching learning process.
Wow. Okay, guys,
We're almost done.
we are almost done, yes. So, what conclusions we can make about all these topics that we are talking about?
Okay, I agree with you guys. I think we as future teachers needs to know, first of all, how to plan, right?
Yes,
To know
definitely.
the programs and the planning, governmental lessons that we need to do research for, have objectives, proposals, etc. And I actually agree with you, Frank, when you said that we need to make positive spaces or
Yes.
environments for our students to develop, the learning process.
Yes. Fair?
Yes, and well, my favorite part of this episode was the part of planning, because I think that as a teachers, we need to make a good planning, because as I told you, or I mentioned it, we learn planning are made for the need of each group, and
Yeah.
without some planning, the education would be a total disaster.
It will be,
Yes.
yes.
It's-
It will be
it's-
useless.
It's a lot of work, so we need to apply all the strategies that we can have in our hands. And right now we have a lot of how can I say, a lot of tools.
Yeah.
Yes. For example, the internet.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you need something, if we need something as a teacher, we just search on the internet, and we can do the same with the students. If they say that they don't have resource, it's just all is in the internet.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
And right now we don't have excuse to learn English and to be a good teachers.
Totally agree.
Okay, so thank you very much, Fernanda. Thank you for your time. I know
Thank you.
that it's very
Thank you to
late.
you.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, so we hope that this podcast will be useful for us as students, as
for our
normalistas,
classmates.
for our
For
classmates,
classmates.
and of course for everyone in the future. Okay?
Yeah.
So thank you and goodbye, and that's it.
Bye.